Erez MORABIA from Israel, in which they will he will talk about the failure of Agile. Did I miss you? Okay. Did I lose you?
No.
Erez, are you here?
I'm here. I'm up and running.
Good. So in the meantime, I'll open the room. I think that you lost me for quite several seconds.
Okay, should I start?
Wait a sec.
Okay.
So let me just introduce you, Erez.
Exactly.
Because it's an honor to introduce you, so I don't want to miss that. So let me introduce you to Erez MORABIA, an really inspiring engineering manager and a pragmatic agile leader at Rapyd Israel now, and not to mention an Ajimeh advisory board member. So I'm also curious to hear from Erez 25 years of experience, is that right?
Yep.
Product development and about messed up agile practices. So go ahead, Erez.
Okay. So first of all, I'm very happy to be here in this amazing conference. Let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see it. So as was mentioned, my name is Erez MORABIA and I'm an engineering manager at Rapyd. And today we're going to talk about agile practices messed up. So I'm going to expose some of the glorious failures I've went through in the past 3 years. Now, before I jump into that, I want to introduce the company I work for, which is Rapyd. Rapyd is one of the sponsors of this amazing event, and Rapyd is really a fintech as a service platform, which means it can provide you financial transactions wherever your business is, and it focuses in 4 main domains: collecting payments, sending payments out, managing electronic wallets, and issuing cards for payments. Now, from my perspective, Rapyd is the leader in that market because of 2 main factors. One, it has connection more than 100 countries around the globe, so it can really reach your customer wherever he is. And the second thing is it supports more than 1,000 payment methods, which means it can reach that customer and allow that customer to use his preferred payment methods. So if you want to hear more about Rapyd, you can go to our site, www.rapyd.net, and read more about it or approach me later on. Now, let's jump in back to our session, where I'll expose some of the most glorious or surprising misuses of agile practices that I went through. Now, the reason that I want to bring that topic is, usually I talk about successes or tips or new methodologies or new insights about Agile, but this time I decided to expose some of the failures, because one of the books that I really was influenced from was the book of Erez, The Lean Startup. And one of the famous quotes there is that failure is a prerequisite for learning and for success in general. Now, I learned a lot from the failures I went through, and I think also the teams that I engaged with learned a lot from that. And I thought it would be a good idea to share that in the wider forum. And the other thing, I've put here a picture of me and Dr. Jeff Sutherland. I had the honor to meet him in person 2 years ago at Boston. And one of the things he said, and it's really connected to Zuzi's presentation, is that Agile is not the goal. It's just a means to an end. It's the engine that's driving us to the goal. We need to look on our business outcomes, and Agile will help us to achieve that. And I think as far as we know that, and as long as we keep that in our minds, we will be okay, because we will keep exploring and experimenting with things that we go through the way. Now, I've picked up for you my top 5 messed up Agile practices. We'll talk about velocity sprinting, work in progress limit, and Scrum Board and dailies. Now, in each one of them, I'll describe a bit what I see as the goal for that practice. We'll talk about a bit of the misuses that I usually see in that practice, and then we'll talk about how it was messed up. Now, just to give the brief overview on the context, I'm talking here about the experiment I had in my previous company, which was a big American corporate. And I had the pleasure to escort about 35 teams along the last 3 years because I was both engineering manager and global Agile coach. And I escorted team, like from China in the East to Argentina in the US in the West. So many different products, different technologies, different cultures. And as we went through that process, I've seen a lot of misuses of practices, all in good intentions, but it blocked the team from moving steps forward. So let's jump into the first practice I chose for you today. So it's velocity, and from my perspective, velocity is about the ability to have fast planning. So first, maybe I'll talk what velocity is for me, just to set a ground. So it's really the work effort that you can accomplish within a certain time box. So if talking about Scrum and story points, is how many story points you can achieve within a sprint. Now, if you do that correctly, you can do really fast planning and you have predictability both for the short term and the long term, wherever it's release or anything else that a company is using. Now, some of the most common misuses I've seen in using velocity is there is high deviation between the sprints. So suppose I have the last 3 sprints, I have 3 story points, then 17 story points, then 8 story points. So if I can calculate an average, that average won't provide me good predictability. So first I need to work on the deviation before I can use the velocity. So I need to understand that. The other misuse that I sometimes see is that teams are using time-based story points. So which means 1 story point equals 1 day. And that brings to confusion. I mean, if you're using time, call it time. If you're using story point, which is supposed to be relative sizing, it's something different, use the term story point, but don't mix the two, because what I've seen is that when teams mix the two, they started to use the time-based story points in a way that time cannot be used. Let me give you an example. Suppose we have 2 teams in 2 similar technology and business domains, and one is junior and the other one is senior. Now, suppose I have 3 story points work item. If I take that 3 story points work item from the senior team to the junior team, the number will change for sure. But this will not happen in true relative sizing, but it will happen in time-based sizing. And this is where things started to go wrong. Or the other thing is that if I'm trying or I expect to have increase in velocity, it doesn't really mean I can do more work items. It more means that I can utilize better the team. So there are different meanings between time and story pointing, which is relative sizing. I think it's a topic, it's a full session about that. So I'll leave that aside for now. And of course, how management looks at velocity, expecting that to increase constantly all the time forever, or comparing velocity between teams, which when that happens, what I really saw is that a team started to play with the numbers and trick the system, and everybody lost from that in that game. Now, the glorious misuse that I've seen so far is that I went to a team that told me, that wanted me to engage with them, team in North Europe, and they told me they are using story points, they're using sprints, they're doing velocity-based planning, but it doesn't work. They don't hit the target each and every time. They miss the target each and every time. And that was strange to me. So I told them, okay, show me the money, show me how you do that. So they open up this wiki page, the Confluence page. And what you can see here is that we have sprints of 10 days. They calculate how many days each engineer is available. And then they sum it up. Here it's 40 days. And then they inject that into a magic formula, which brought out the number of story points. Okay, so in this formula, you multiply that by 1.5, you take 50% of that, and then you have 30 story points. So this is, okay, so the next question was, do you use that magic formula all the time? They told me, yeah, we're using that in the last year, and it's a fixed formula. And the third question I asked them is, can you show me the other teams in the same product? and they show me other teams. And what they actually showed me is that they use this exact same formula, which means they had a constant velocity for the same team for forever. And the same formula was used for all the other teams as well. So there is a combination of many things that just fix the mindset. And what they expected is that what happened is that they have a fixed velocity, expected velocity all the time, and they missed it all the time. Now there was no empirical process in that. When they call it velocity, which is based on time, and use this magic formula forever for all the teams, this didn't allow them to really explore and experiment. Now, is that bad or good? Well, it depends. Once they let it go, they use if you use that formula once and then you let it go and start to experiment and do that on empirical process, just see what happened in the last sprint and adjust your velocity, that's good. But if you keep using that, Albert Einstein said, if you're doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results, well, that's stupidity. So, they had just had to let it go. And once they let it go, they started really to be predictable and learn about their capacity and how much they can accomplish each and every sprint. The next topic I would like to talk about is the sprint time box, which should really provide the team focus, easy way to estimate, because we are pretty good in short-term estimation. We are pretty lousy in long-term estimation. And it really provides us a short feedback loop, short learning cycle throughout our process. Now, the common misuses that I usually see in that aspect is that, and they are surprising as is, that they're using not full weeks periods. So suppose I'm using a sprint of 12 days. So every time my event is in a different day, that just eliminate the simplicity. There's no reason to do that. Another thing is variable duration, is that I'm going to extend my sprint because I didn't finish everything. So I will extend it till I finish that. And although it's maybe look good to management because I finished that within that sprint, you really lose transparency, you lose the ability to do good predictability and fast planning. The third thing is gap between sprints. This I've seen once, and it was really surprising, is that suppose I'm running in a sprint of 8 days, and then I take 2 days break, and then I start the next sprint. Now, when I ask the team why they are doing that, they say, well, we need 2 days break because we need to plan. So all the concept of continuous planning as I go was missed here completely. And I think it was misinterpretation of the same framework, the SAFe, the Scaled Agile framework, which you go 8 to 12 weeks, and then you take 2 weeks of innovation and planning. I think they just copycat that and try to take that into the sprint level, and then 2 days break between sprints. But what had actually happened here is that they lost a lot of time, and engineers started to work on items which were not in priority. So everybody loses from that aspect. And the fourth one, I think it's the most common one, is that you have long Gantt charts of 9 months and you just split it into sprints without any change. And sometimes managers love that because it provides them a better way to micromanagement and stress the teams. At least this is what they say, but it doesn't give them any result. And again, is that bad or good? Well, it depends on the context. Actually, in one of the cases that one of the managers have done that, it provided me a way to engage with the team because it introduced the concept of sprint. So it really opened the door. I put my foot in the door and then I engaged with the team. And actually we managed to do a change bottom up. And they actually are doing pretty well today. Now, the most glorious misuse of sprints that surprised me is that I was engaging with a team from Europe, I think. And they told me we managed to reduce our releases from 4 months to 2 months, which is great. We're using sprints and velocity planning. And we want you to engage with us to see what else we can do better. And once I've engaged with them, I found out that their sprints are 8 weeks long. This was the first surprise. The second surprise, it was the sprint was equal to release. So one sprint is one release. There's no way to get mistakes over there. And the third thing, the most surprising thing, they have overlapping sprints. So at any given time, when you go to their Scrum board, and I took a screenshot of that, you see 2 sprints in parallel. Now, when I drilled down, I realized it's just a sequential planning of 4 silos of design, coding, testing, and acceptance testing done by different teams in a traditional way, and I just wrap it up in something called sprint. And again, is that bad or good? Well, if that the end state, well, you can do better than that. But actually what they've done here, they took a big leap forward. They used to have like long releases, and they have no visibility about requirements. They had requirements in emails, Excel files, and in face-to-face conversation, and moved to a unified tool, which was Atlas and Jira. So that was a really big leap for them forward. And and then it provided me the opportunity to engage with them and understand what is the meaning of sprints and why we are doing that, and not just called this big release a sprint. It doesn't make it a sprint, really. Number 3, work in progress limit. I think this is the most unused practice that I've seen, unfortunately, I must say. Work in progress limit means that we are limiting the number of work items we work in parallel, that we started to work and didn't finish. Okay, and the meaning of work in progress, really the benefits of that is to reduce your cycle times, to allow the team to swarm around work items together. And when they swarm around work items together, they also extend their T-shaped capabilities, meaning I'm not only expert in one domain, I can expand my capabilities to a different domains when I'm doing that. So there's a lot of benefits from this practice. And the common misuses is that it's not being used, really. I think, I've been in the last 3 years, I've been working with about, almost 80 teams with my colleagues, and, only 20% of them were using that. I didn't figure out why yet, but, this was the reality for me, at least. Then other misuse is that you put work in progress limit that is above the team size. Now, is that bad? Again, it depends on the context. If I'm a team of 5 and I'm using work in progress limit of 10, used 10, I had 10 work in progress items, and now I'm up to the limit of 7. That's good. But as you pull it and push it down, you can do better. And again, there's no magic number here, but struggle and try to get to a place where your team really works together as a team around those work items. And the third thing that I think this is what I see the most when teams are using is that there's excuses without learning. So the important thing about the work in progress limit is, you pick a number, you put it, and then you break it. Okay, what does it mean you break it? You said, for example, I won't do more than 7 work items in parallel, and you do 9 in that sprint. And now what happens? What I usually see teams is they're trying to provide excuses or reasoning on why they broke it, and then they move on. But I think this is less important than the second part. The second part is, okay, we did our best. We had to break it for some reason. Now let's think how we can make it better. And most of the teams are missing that part. And that will bring me to the glorious misuse that I've seen of work in progress limit. It was a team from Russia. And I was engaging with them. Someone asked me to engage with them and see, they had issues with meeting really the sprint goal. For a very long time. And when I was talking with the Scrum Master, he said, yeah, I've tried, many practices. I'm using work in progress limit, but it didn't help. And I told him, you know what, if you already talk about work in progress limit, show me how you implement that. And then they open up the board, and I've seen work in progress limit of 24. So I asked him, what is the sprint duration? He told me 2 weeks. I asked him, what is the team size? He told me 5. So it was 5 times more than the team size, which is crazy. You won't hit that anywhere. So, and I asked him, do you find that limit really practical for you? I mean, do you hit that limit anymore? And said, no, it's high enough, so I don't hit it. So why are you using that? And what he told me, and it brings me back to my previous slide, he told me that, I've put small numbers, and every time we hit the number, I just increase that and increase that and increase that, and in time we go to 24. So this is really shows where you take the practice, you put the number, you break it, and instead of learn from that, you provide some reason, and then you change the number, but you miss the opportunity for improvement. And I will mention here another topic as well. I've seen also the column called blocked, okay? Whenever you have blocked items, it goes to the block column. Now, I don't want to open the discussion whether the blocked column is good or not. I just want to give you an insight on what I see usually when teams using work in progress and then using the blocked item, the blocked column as well. What happens is that it provides them escape path from the work in progress limit. Okay, so if, for example, I put 7 is my work in progress limit, and then something is blocked, and I need to pull the 8 item. What I do, I just take one item, move it to the blocked column, and all of a sudden, a work in progress limit is okay. So if you are using the blocked column, make sure it doesn't provide you escape path for your work in progress limit, because it just, it won't allow you the opportunity to learn. It's not about, punishing the team. It's about engaging with and embracing the failure for as opportunity for learning. Now, the fourth item I would like to focus on is really the Scrum Board. So Scrum Board really should provide us visibility, ability to manage our workflow, get our sight on the sprint goal, making sure we are on progress to the sprint goal. But what I usually see is that there's a secretary that updates the board. It's like either the Scrum Master or the manager or whoever in that organization. And the team is not really engaged with the board. It's something that happens on the side, and it's not a tool for the team. It's some tool for the Scrum Master or for the manager. Now, the second thing I usually see is that there's big differentiation between the boards. So suppose I have a product with 7 teams. When you look at the boards, they all look different. Now, I'm all in favor to provide teams the flexibility and freedom to do whatever they need to do during the sprint.
Erez?
Yeah.
To interrupt, there's a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. So either you want to address it or continue with your workshop. I know that you are pretty much okay with it.
In the chat. Okay, you do you want to read it to me, or?
What about putting a WIP limit to the blocked column in case the team uses?
Yeah. So yeah. So that's one of the approaches you can do. But keep in mind, we need to keep in mind that, for example, if we have to do doing done, and we have the blocked column, and so it's obvious that the blocked column really talked about the doing stuff. Now, if you extend your board and you start to have 2 or 3 columns there of in progress, then blocked means what? Blocked which item? So you lose a bit your transparency when you do that. Although you think you get transparency on the block items, there are other ways to do and visualize that while the items remain in their main column. But yeah, if you are going and do a scrape route to blocked items, put a limit on that for sure. Yeah, that should help you. I think it's less, from my experience, I think it's less useful than remaining the items in their main column, but that's an approach as well. Thank you, Danko, for the chat.
If you want to cheat yourself, then you will find another technical way to cheat yourself. If you don't want to learn, then you will find another bypass.
Yeah. There, sometimes I tell, it's like, if you go to a diet, don't put your chocolates in your favorite closet. So, just be careful of these common pitfalls, and don't, when you do that, it's very, very easy to move items there and lose your sight of the real thing that happens. But again, we need to keep our eyes on the business outcome. If we don't achieve the business outcome, let's re-experiment with that, what happens. And even if you are using a blocked column and something doesn't work, so keep experimenting with that and get to a point where you are pleased with your business outcome. Back to our board, Scrum board. So suppose we have a product with 7 teams, and we have, each and every team uses a different board, maybe different columns. And, the most annoying thing is that they used a different definition of what goes to the done section. So although I'm in favor of, giving the freedom to teams to do whatever they need within the sprint boundaries, you need to put your eyes on that, because sometimes this freedom is sometimes a backfire for you in the product level. Because maybe you lose your sight on, taking, higher level view of what is going on. And if people move between teams, they need to relearn how to operate and so on and so forth. It's just an anecdote. It really depends on the context. But I'm mentioning that because I've seen teams using that for a bad usage, which caused the product to lose visibility in what is going on. And the last item I want to mention of the common misuses is the updating the board too much. And I'm very, very sensitive about it. Anyone that knows me for a while knows that I like the tool to work for me and not me working for the tool. And what happens a lot of times is that the tools is so heavy loaded with work items and slice work items that need to be updated each and every day, that the team is going slower because they need to invest a lot of energy in the tool. So just be careful not allowing the tool, you to work for the tool, but let the tool work for you. Now, the most common misuse of the Scrum Board that I've seen was, again, I think with a team from Ukraine. And one of my colleagues requested me to engage with them because there was a request to extend the ticket workflow into more new stages, which means they wanted to add 2 more columns into their Scrum Board. So I engaged with the Scrum Master, and he told me, he needs better visibility of what is going on. He needs transparency, which is excellent. And I told him, okay, show me what you're doing. And he opened this huge board of 6 columns, and he was looking for the 7th column and the 8th column. And it was about 2-week sprint of 5 people with 7 or 8 columns. And it took time for me to engage with that person, but after a few weeks, we realized that the more columns he was adding, the slower the team goes. Okay, so he was trying to make the team go faster, and he thought it will do that by getting better visibility on each and every state of each and every work item. What happened in practice, he started to make the team go slower, because it's not just about the tool and the columns in that tool. If you look on each and every column, it actually represents some kind of handoff that happens behind the scene. If someone is opening his microphone, please mute yourself.
I will mute everyone.
Thank you.
You unmute.
And I will unmute myself. Okay, I can talk with myself as well. I'm enjoying that, So what happens here is that the more columns you add, the slower the team goes. And I've seen that in many cases. And it's like, I don't know, it's like shuhari, it seems like the naive place to start is like to do doing done, but eventually when you get to expert level, you again in to do doing done, because it's the simplest thing to do for a team. It's where the team is the most mature. So once I saw that happened and we started to work with the team to reduce the number of columns, they actually started to move faster. And I took that note to other teams as well and other products as well, because it's very, very easy to get to a place where I want to, I'm extending my board because I want to get better visibility, and I'm backfiring myself. Okay. Now the last practice that I want us to go through today. So I didn't thought I would enter daily into my top 5, but an incident that happened to me, made me put it in, because usually that is very trivial and the misuses are very, very common. Nothing can surprise there. At least I thought nothing can surprise me. So usually that is for syncing the sync between the teams, removing impediments, talking about the sprint goal, making sure we're on target, planning and replanning if we need. Now, the most common misuses, and I think most of you know that because everyone experiment that, it's like it's a status reporting meeting, it's boring, not collaborating. It go way beyond 15 minutes. I've seen teams go 45 to 60 minutes every day. So those are the common misuses. Now, the surprising misuse that I've seen is that I was engaging with a team and I went into their daily meeting as a silent observer. And there was one person missing from the team. And I went the other day and the same person was missing for the team again. And after the the daily meeting, I asked the team, where is that person? And told me he's in another daily. I say, okay, so that person works in 2 teams. And they say, no, he's not working in 2 teams. He's just in another daily. But I didn't know what that daily was. So I decided to go to that daily. And when I reached that daily, so it was a product of 7 teams. Now, this daily wasn't related to any of those 7 teams. It was a separated daily. And they had a huge Scrum board with 80 work items on that, 80 work items for 2 sprints. And there were like 14 people in that daily. And what I realized when I experiment with that and observed what is happening there is that they've taken all the QA people from all the teams, so about 2 people from each team, so 14 people. And on that board, they took all the QA portion, the testing portion of all the work items and merged that into that board. So you like had 80 subtasks of testing on that board, and it was like about micromanaging what is going on there. Now, this didn't take 15 minutes. You can't do that in 15 minutes. You wasted a lot of time for a lot of people, but that wasn't the worst thing. The worst thing is that it didn't allow the people to attend their main daily. So, if people had conflict between their Scrum daily and their, guild QA daily, they attended the QA daily because the person that managed that daily was a manager, their manager. So what happened eventually is that the teams also felt stupid, the people felt stupid to raise the same impediments in 2 places. So we just raised that for the manager to handle. And this is where the team lost the opportunity to tackle the impediment and work as a team towards that. So again, if I think the intentions were good. The manager was trying to grasp all of what is going on, and get visibility. What happened in reality, he lost accountability of the teams, and he put a barrier between the development and the testing portion of the teams. Now, is that a bad thing? Again, it depends on where you are and whether it's a transition or not. What happened in that case is that it really moved from silos into cross-functional teams, but the manager was still holding on to this QA management, QA department kind of daily. And it did, until we talked about it, he didn't let it go. And when he let it go, it allowed the team to engage more and be more accountable for the work items. So again, things can be done in good intention, but the result can be bad. So as long as you keep your eyes on the organizational outcomes and you see that it doesn't change, keep experimenting and explore what is going on there, because this is your goal eventually. So yeah, Danko, do you want to say something? Or?
Excellent.
Okay.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't you.
Okay.
So it brings me to the end of this session. Now let's wrap it up. So we talk about the glorious misuses that I've seen throughout the 3 years, and I think I learned a lot. I learned a lot from most of them, and I hope. Well,
wait a sec. You're on mute, Erez. Erez, you're on mute.
I'm unmuting myself. Okay, so I'll repeat that again.
No, I'm mute.
Okay. So let me wrap up this up again. So we talked about the glorious failures or misuses that I've seen. And again, I think it just provided opportunity for the teams to learn, as as we said, failure is a prerequisite for learning and for success. So as long as we keep our eyes on the goal, which is the business outcomes, and we know that Agile is an engine that should provide that, we should be okay. Because if something doesn't work, we will not get the desired business outcomes, and it means we need to keep exploring and experimenting. And the fact that we read about some Agile practice in some Google or blog site or some blog of someone, it doesn't mean we really know how to use that. So don't just use that, say you use that and move on. See if that really provide any benefit for you. So either you doing the great work with that, but it doesn't provide any usage for you, so why using that, invest energy in that? Or you use that maybe improperly and doesn't provide you, and you need to experiment with that practice and then try to get the most out of it. I will be happy to meet you in the breakout sessions. First of all, thank you very much for listening and joining my session. And we'll also welcome you to our site, Rapyd site. We have a lot of open positions there. Feel free either to send it to me or straight to the site. What I would like to have in the breakout session, either you expose your greatest failures or you want to drill down in some of the topics I've talked about, because some of them are really annoying, like, the work in progress limit, and why did I say that blocked column is not okay? And why did I say that time-based story pointing is not okay? So, it really depends on the context, and I know it provides, it raises a lot of emotion. So I'll be happy to talk in the after party session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erez. As always, not harnessing or not falling into Parkinson law and investing all of the allocated time for your speak. Perfectly okay. I think that we can safely take a couple of questions in this session, if it's okay
good with
you.
Yeah, perfect.
Good.
Let me stop the presentation. I want to see the people.
So go ahead. If anyone has a question, this is the time. If you're too shy, use the chat.
I have a question.
Hey.
Hey, who Daphna? Daphna and Sue.
Daphna and Dana.
Excellent.
Daphna and Dana.
Daphna and Dana. Okay, Daphna and Dana, D&D. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so what if we have a product and we have, let's say, 2 development teams and 1 QA team, for example, like something like 16 people? How do they do the daily? Because it's a question they ask me. Should they do it with their teams or with the whole product team, all the 16 people? They do have some things that are crossed teams that they are doing, and some different things that they are doing inside their teams. So they try to do the group daily, but it took forever and people are getting bored.
Yeah.
By the way, same for the retrospective, because it's the same thing. How do we do this? So what do you suggest? How can we overcome this?
Well, yeah, I've seen that a lot. So when I engage with teams, what I usually see, they have, many teams in the same product, different silos, different technology areas of the same product and the QA portion. And I guess this is what you're describing. We have 2 teams, maybe different technologies. I don't know. This is what I guess.
They are working on the same product, the same features and product, and they have to release the same thing. But it's a large group, so they are divided for smaller teams.
Okay, so one thing that I usually do that, the QE stuff is really, they also, when most of the teams that I engage with, the QA is on the side. So one of the things is that I try to engage the QA with the teams, either, by restructuring the organization or just, creating a virtual teams that will work together that, because the daily is the place where we are talking about our sprint backlog, and we need to make sure we are working as a team towards that. Now, the trick here, I used to have, I don't know, 7 teams that were different technology teams and the QA team. And the trick was that when we created Scrum teams out of that, because it was a big group of about 40 to 50 people, is that we provide them work items that they can, as a team, as a small team, work on that. And as long as we do that, we are able to provide them a proper daily. So if we have a big item that requires 16 people to work on, that's a problem. We probably need to slice that. But if I can slice an item that 8 people can work on that and provide that to the team, then I don't need the 16 people, daily. So I think it's from my experience, it was about slicing the work items right and letting go a bit of the fear of it's not the best person that work on that item, because you can't win that. Okay, so there are two approaches. You either take a work item and you get the people around it, and then each work item you need to regather the people, and it's a mess. It usually results many conflicts and many dependencies. The other thing is that I say, okay, this is a team, and I'm throwing on that team a work item. Okay, and it might be that at first when I throw on that team a work item, they're not the best people to handle that work item, but they will extend their skill set and they will become T-shaped in that manner. In a long time, it will work better. And then you will have much loose dependency between the teams.
Okay.
That make any sense?
Yes, but I mean, how do you do it for a long time? Because the products keeps changing, and the team, it's not always the same people that work on the same parts of the product. So you will have to recreate the groups all the time.
So it's exactly what I'm saying. So when I first started, working as a manager, it was about taking a work item and putting the best people around that work item. But there's a mindset change here. Instead of doing that, taking a work item, putting people around it, do the other thing. Set your teams and then put work item on those teams, regardless of what the work item is, and allow the team to extend their skill set within time. Now, those are two different approaches, and the second approach is harder at first, but after a few sprints, you will start running faster and faster and faster, and then you will see that many dependencies are gone because those teams are operating independently, and you can just throw work items on them instead of figuring out what are the best people for each and every work item.
Okay, I have to think about it a little bit.
Okay, and we can engage later on because I've been through that with a lot of teams, and it's not an easy leap to do. Changing this mindset shift between I want the best people to work on a work item, and now no, I'm saying no, this is the team, and I'm throwing a work item on that. And it depends again on the context. So if I understand better the context, we can further discuss that if you want.
Yes,
thank you for the great question.
Thank you.
After that, you can elaborate, Erez, in the after party session.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I've asked Boaz to share what is doing while everybody is hearing you, Erez. So this is it. And if you see there is another question in the chat, I saw it. From Abhijit. What's the best practice to keep WIP in some limits as per team size? Is it?
Okay, great question.
I thought that answering it, but it's so easy that go ahead. You do.
I wish it was so easy to answer. So what is the best approach to keep the work in progress limit?
Maybe we can give a Danko answer. It's the
No, it's okay. It's so easy. Even Noah can do it, isn't it? We can talk about it not so long because we have Avi's lecture in a minute.
Okay.
But what's the best practice to keep WIP in some limits as per team size? What do you think?
In 30 seconds, I think the first guideline would be try to take the team size, maybe add 2 and try to put that as a limit. This is what I'm really trying to do at first. And see how the team handles that, because it's really a struggle for the team to start and minimizing the number of items they are taking. And by the way, the bigger your board is, the Scrum board, the harder that will be for you. So if you're only with three columns, that's a good approach. If you have 6 columns, 5 columns, it will be a bit more difficult. So try to be more strict about the number. And maybe go beyond even the team size if you have many columns. This is like the first approach to experiment.
Yeah, I think to add, with your permission, one of the values in Scrum is focus. And while focusing on the column, okay, you'll be more efficient. The more columns that you have, the less focus that you'll be, and that will involve a lot of disturbances. Okay, So I think by focusing on the I don't know, limited columns, and there isn't any magic number, unless it is 42, of course, which is the ultimate answer to the universe. So unless that, everything goes with, you need to check it, because Scrum is all empiricism. And empiricism means you need to check it, okay? You mentioned Shuari. I placed the link, okay? Do you want to elaborate a little bit about it? Because we're just about finishing time, but this is an important
yeah,
issue.
So in Shuri, you start, by doing something by the book. You're trying to figure out what you're doing. This is the shoe, the hard. You have to be a bit more expert, and in the you're really inventing your own method. So what I've taken from that into the Agile world is that in the context of Scrum boards, is I've seen teams starting with these 3 columns, and I think this is like the naive thing to do. And then they extend it, and then they shrink it back, and eventually they get to 3 columns as well, but they get to that in a place that they are very, very mature, not in the place that were started as very juniors that they didn't know what a board means. So sometimes I looked at teams with 3 columns. I can't figure out whether they're just starting or they are very, very mature. Only when I get to know them, I can figure that out.
Good. Generally speaking, the Shuhari concept is learning the material, understanding what is it, shaking the technique, and is creating your own technique. And in respect to WIP limit, it's the same thing. You'll start with the WIP limit by the book, which means that 1 user story per team member, okay? And then you shake it a little bit, and then you find your own team signature, which is another Agile term, or not to say Scrum term, okay? And with this team signature, you will be able to set the relevant or the right WIP limit per team. Okay, good. Anything else that you want to add, Erez?
No, I think this is about it. I'm looking forward to meet some people on the breakout session, on the after party session.
Good. So we are going to thank you, Erez, for joining us and to share with us your thoughts. Second, I'm going to open the breakout rooms, the after party breakout room, in which that you will be able to join Erez and verify what really did he mean by all the things that he said. And Boaz, you want to share with us a little bit about the drawing that you did along this session before going to the next session of Avi?
Yes, sure. One moment.
Avi, are you there? Avi?
Yes, I'm here.
So get ready in a couple of minutes. We'll
Hello,
start.
Avi.
Hey, Avi.
First of all, here on the mirror board, you can see my screen is visible, yes?
Yep.
Yes.
Cool, the mirror board. So you can see from beginning, from Evelyn Roos to Erez, illustrations are starting to pile up. I think what Erez talked about, here is Zuzi's manager. But here is what Erez talked about. Agile is the engine, not the goal. I think it's it would make a cool sticker for us.
That's cool.
And yeah, it really took me, it really took me this long board that you talked about. I imagined it as an endless visibility board that gives you all the information, but at one point it's just not possible. It also relates to the Shuhari you talked about. And of course, the velocity machine or the measurement machine, or tell me what you want to measure and I'll give it to you.
Oh, that's great, Buzz. I want those pictures real size as a gift.
No problem. You'll receive it.
With
Everyone can have it.
all the drawings, of course, will be uploaded into our site, which is surprisingly ajimeh.com. Okay.
Surprising.